So for this week coming up, you'll be reading chapters 4, 5, and 6 after you take the participation and academic honesty verification quiz. Your objectives for this week are here. We're going to look at the American Revolution, slavery in the colonies, the 7 Years' War, and also how to write a thesis statement. So, the French and Indian War is one of my favorites. And the thing is this, we cannot get to the American Revolution if we don't look at the Enlightenment in the 1690s and early 1700s, the Great Awakening in the 1730s, 40s, 50s, and the French and Indian War. It doesn't make sense that we go from pilgrims to the Revolution without these events. Back when I was a kid, that's what we did. We jumped from the pilgrims to the Revolution, and that was not the way it occurred at all. Even after the French and Indian War, the British subjects here in the colonies, they were proud to be Brits, and they really were not thinking about independence. That was not on the radar all the way up to till the Olive Branch petition in right before the Declaration of Independence, when King George III rejected the Olive Branch petition. The people who were signing the Declaration were also saying, we'd like to, stick with you, and independence is not really what we want. And really the founders were unsure that this was going to work. Even if they had won independence, they were not sure that the whole experiment would work. And so it was very uncertain as to whether or not the revolution would actually occur. And then you also have to consider, when you're reading this week, think about this. Was the revolution occurring in their minds, or was the revolution the battles? Because you don't decide to fight for independence when you think that you could be hanged for treason or executed for treason, one way or the other. And that's what the signers of the Declaration were risking. If they had not won the war, they would have been tried and executed for treason. So they were risking their lives, literally. But you have to consider, is the revolution in their minds? Is it the actual battles of the war? Or is it both? You could argue all sorts of ideas about this. So anyway, okay, so you're going to go down after you read these chapters. You're going to read about the thesis statement and outline, because this is going to affect you down here. Now, the reason for the paper and the way that this is all laid out all week, all term, I should say, is that if you take the writing process and divide it up into specific tasks, you're going to learn how to write a paper more successfully. And so it divides it into tasks. And the thing that's nice about this is you get credit for those tasks. So you're actually getting credit in addition to your final paper. You're getting credit for all the work you're doing along the way. And then at the end, you have a paper, and it's not that painful to write it because you've done it all throughout the term each week. So it's actually a really good way to get you to break the writing process down into smaller assignments. So this is your discussion. It's Edmund Morgan on slavery. And Edmund Morgan is an older historian. I mean, this was written a ways back. But it's a really good, he's very well known, and it's a really good article from 1972. So you have to read all of this, the disclaimer, so to speak, because the terminology does have to do with the period in which the article was written. But it's a great article, so there you go. Also, your critical thinking exercise has to do with the American Revolution, so you'll hit reply here, and then that's when you'll post. Now, you only post once. That's your original post. You do not have to post responses for the critical thinking exercise. The only discussion that requires responses is the week 2 discussion. Okay? For the American Revolution assignment, you are going to choose 8 topics, people, events, or ideas that you think that a teacher has to cover in order to effectively teach the American Revolution. Okay, so each topic you're going to write 1 to 3 sentences as far as a description of the event, the person, the topic, idea, and then you're going to write 3 to 5 sentences about the significance. Why is that person important? Why would you say that we would need to talk about that subject or topic or person or idea? Why is it, if you had to choose 8 things relating to the American Revolution to teach in a history class, what are they, meaning the description, and then why are they so significant that you would choose those over somebody else or something else? Okay, so you can choose from the Georgia Military Library right here. Here is where you go, library home, there are the databases. Here is your password. If you are asked, some of the resources ask you for a password, some don't. So there's your password. It's better just to copy and paste that password. There's no way I could type that accurately. It's just not happening. So I would say you would want to copy and paste that. Also remember, make sure that you paraphrase your assignment, because you do not want to get hit with a very high Turnitin report, because this is going to go through a plagiarism checker, just like the topic selection is too. So anytime you see this symbol, that means it's a Turnitin assignment. So you want to make sure you're paraphrasing for sure with that. You don't ever want to plagiarize, of course, but you want to be, you want to make sure that you are not plagiarizing. You paraphrase as much as you possibly can. Now, that doesn't mean that you can paraphrase names. You can't paraphrase George Washington. That's just not an option. You can't paraphrase American Revolution. Not an option. But paraphrase what you can. Okay? So, next, topic selection and listing of sources for your final paper. Okay, so you're going to choose. This gives you all of the directions for the final paper. This is what you're planning on writing. Now, we are not talking about the Civil War yet, but this is what you will be discussing in your paper, and that's where we'll be by the time we get to the end of the term. So, you'll want to choose one of these topics and choose 4 or 5 events to explain about in your paper. So for this, you're going to list your topic, and then you're going to list the sources. Now that means, don't just give me your topic and that's all. I need to see what sources you're going to use. So what you'll do is go to the databases in the library, go to the library homepage, and find the sources that you plan to use in your paper. I would find 4, 5, 6 sources at least. Now notice this criteria. You have to have at least 2 primary sources and 3 secondary sources. Now remember that primary sources are the ones that were created at that time, meaning a document, XYZ. Document could be the Emancipation Proclamation, the Constitution, a diary, a letter, those kinds of things. Secondary sources can be books or journal articles, something that somebody else has written. Okay, so your textbook would be a secondary source. Now, you don't want to use that for your paper, but you could use other books from the library or journal articles. Your 2 primary sources could be the Gettysburg Address. That would be one. Or 2 different letters, or 2 different diaries, or a map, or different kinds of documents that were written during that time. Okay? All right, so don't forget 2 primary sources, 3 secondary sources. So you'll want to include your topic and those 5 sources in the document that you submit to this Dropbox. Okay? Now, last item. Your quiz about thesis statements. All right? So what you'll do is you'll, from what you read earlier, you will answer the 11 questions in this quiz about thesis statements, and then you'll be done for the week. So you have 5 assignments that are due, and they won't all obviously take the exact same amount of time, but you do want to make sure that you spend enough time on the assignments. So I hope that helps, and I hope you have a great week. If you have any questions at all, just let me know. Thanks.